In the weeks following the Hamas attack on southern Israel in October last year, the Israeli army compiled a 20-minute video of the horrors caught on film that day from Hamas's own body cams and other footage. It was sent to select journalists and governments around the world to justify the response the army was planning. A much longer video could and should now be compiled of the war crimes Israeli troops have been committing, with the full knowledge and approval of their officers and the backing of most Israelis. The killing of Faisal Khalid's pregnant mother, shot in the corridor of the family home along with his father before his eyes. The summary execution of an old man with hearing and speech difficulties, which the soldier boasted to his unit about. All respect, one of them is heard to say. The Flower Massacre, when a tank unit opened fire on crowds rushing an aid convoy. The routine torture, executions, mock and real, of detainees. The soldiers are contemptuous of what the rest of the world thinks, but the world is watching. This war is forcing Israel's backers to see the full horror of the crimes committed in a campaign they called a just war just 5 months ago. The degree of brutality, the glee shown by the soldiers as they go about their daily killing, the starving of Gaza, and then dropping leaflets in Arabic telling Gazans to feed the needy, killing of 400 people at the aid trucks, and then saying they will flood Gaza with aid. All this is too much to sweep under the carpet when this war stops. A Rubicon has been crossed. With this war, Israel has entered the elite rank of pariah states. It is now the ugliest of the ugly. It's impossible to forgive. It cannot be justified, nor can it be put in context. Liberal Zionism has become a contradiction in terms. The Jewish state has quickly become synonymous with Jewish supremacism, the natural heir to white supremacists. They have totally dehumanized the population of Gaza, killed them with contempt in their eyes. This is having a transformational effect on Jewry worldwide, in whose name these crimes are being committed. You can see it in the words of Jonathan Glazer, the British director of the film Zone of Interest, when he said in his Oscar acceptance speech,
"Right now we stand here as men who refute their Jewishness and the Holocaust being hijacked by an occupation which has led to conflict for so many innocent people."
Emily, a Jewish activist member of Na'amod UK, said, "I think there's been a quiet reckoning in our community, and you can see this because the bloc keeps growing, the movement keeps growing, the constituency organisations keep getting bigger and bigger. I've never been so sure that I will see a free Palestine."
I believe it is my solemn duty, not just as a Jew, but as a human being, to stand here and demand for an immediate ceasefire, and to show that these marches aren't an unsafe place for Jews. There are hundreds of us here today in solidarity with Palestinians.
Asked what she thought of her government's attempt to brand these marches as the work of extremists, she said, "I'm very tired of being told how to feel as a Jewish person by people who are not Jewish. I'm tired of being told to feel afraid when these marches are, by and large, peaceful and people are so lovely to us and so thankful to us. It really shows the ignorance of Jewish opinion outside their very small Zionist rabble." Israel and its apologists are right to be scared of what a new generation of American and British Jew is telling them. For the last 8 decades, Israel governed a consensus about its existence, identity and purpose, which is much more powerful than all the arms, money, and the migrants the state received. The weaker this consensus becomes, the quicker Israel will lose its influence in the centres of Western power. Already, the compulsive addiction of support for Israel is upending the West's own attempts to explain to itself that it is a moral force, a force for good in the world. Under the British government's latest definition of extremism, it is somehow within British values to support a government that flouts the Genocide Convention, starves a population under occupation, and kills unarmed mothers and children at will. But it is extremist to protest against that on the streets of London. This is a patent absurdity. It is left to the likes of South Africa to show Britain the way. It is now going to prosecute its citizens who return having fought in the Israeli army. Add to this Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's profound reluctance to conduct a prisoner exchange, which his own negotiators agreed at the Paris talks, and the continuing daily carnage of Gaza is having a profound effect on those who supported and continue to arm Israel. Joe Biden's rift with Netanyahu is now open and in the public. The US leader, who said so loudly that Israel had every right to defend itself 5 months ago, now says Israel cannot kill another 30,000 Palestinians in the name of self-defense. I don't for one believe Biden has had some dramatic change of heart, or that the scales have fallen from his eyes. If Biden is confronting the consequences of having given Israel the brightest of green lights to invade Gaza after the Hamas attack on October the 7th, those consequences are primarily electoral. Biden's team has been shocked by the extent of the uncommitted vote. Hundreds of thousands of voters across the US voted for no candidate in the Democratic primaries on Super Tuesday, as the movement urging voters to vote uncommitted gathers pace in protest at Biden's handling of the war in Gaza. There is now a deliberate shift in tone. The Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, the highest-ranking Jewish official in the US, was full-throated in his support for Israel after the Hamas attack. Last week he said support for Israel worldwide was at a historic low, and that Israel could not survive if it became a pariah state. The loss of public opinion in the West, the continued case in the International Court of Justice for genocide, the erosion of the Jewish consensus, and the nervousness of Israel's backers, all this points to a strategic defeat for Israel. Even if the war stops now, the price Israel has paid for the reoccupation of Gaza will have been higher than it could possibly have imagined 5 months ago. It has yet to realize this, but it will.